Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Tasneem Abrahams. I'm the founder of the Private Practice Growth Club. Today's video is all about what you need in order to start a private practice as a health professional in South Africa. The very first thing you need before you even consider starting a practice is to establish a vision for your private practice. Do you know where you are going? You cannot make a plan without knowing the desired end result. It's important for you to think about why you are going into private practice and what kind of practice you want to have. The vision you have for your practice will guide you in making decisions in your practice from a legal, financial, operational, and human resources perspective. Don't make this mistake of just jumping in and making decisions willy-nilly without fully understanding where it is you are going to. The next thing we need to look at is your business plan. Be honest, you kind of freaked out a little at the words business plan. Am I right? Well, don't stress. Your business plan need not be a scary undertaking. It should be a living, working document that evolves over time. So it doesn't have to be this big, scary, formal document that the banks need to give you a business loan. It's simply a document that outlines where you are going, as in point number 1, your vision, and how you plan to get there. I do have a video on this channel that takes you through what important elements you should include in your business plan, and you'll find a link to that in the description box below. The next thing you need to look at is licensing. You must have up-to-date registration with the Health Professions Council of South Africa as an independent practitioner in order to treat patients privately. If you are registered with the Allied Health Professions Council of South Africa or the Regulatory Authority for Social Work or Nursing, please also consult your relevant body for licensing requirements to practice in a private capacity as one of those professions. The next thing we want to look at is naming your practice. This is a very topical issue because whilst the HPCSA has very clear rules and guidelines with regards to the naming of practices and what you are and are not allowed to name your practice, they have not been regulating this. And so many new practices have been breaking the rules in this regard. And the more practices do so, the more it becomes the norm. However, the HPCSA has made it very clear that the only reason there has not been consequences is because they have not had the capacity to regulate this, but that they are working towards changing that. To find out more information about the naming of practices, you can visit the HPCSA website and download the latest ethics booklet, where in booklet 2, you will find the rules around naming a private practice. I do also have a video on the topic of naming your practice, which you will also find linked in the description box below. Next, we want to look at business registration. This is something I get questions about quite a lot. As an HPCSA registered healthcare professional, you may only operate as a sole proprietor, a private company, or also known as an incorporated company, a partnership, or an association. This is one of those decisions that will be informed by the vision you have for your private practice. I have another handy video that I've linked in the description box below that can help you to make that decision as to which type of business registration you need to operate under. If you're operating as a sole proprietor, there is no need to register anywhere formally because you will be your practice in your own right. You and your practice are the same legal entity. On the other hand, if you do wish to register an incorporated company, you will have to register with the Companies and Intellectual Properties Commission, also known as CIPC. I have linked to that website in the description box below as well. Now, the next thing you need to have before you start your own practice or before you bill patients in a practice is to have your very own bank account. As a sole proprietor, you don't have to have a business account separate from the outset because you and your business are the same entity. However, from an accounting or a tax perspective and just plain good business practice, it is strongly advisable that you do get a separate bank account to receive revenue and pay expenses from as your practice. As your practice grow, you are going to want to switch to business banking. So it might be better to get set up this way from the outset to avoid the hassles of switching accounts down the line. Next thing we want to look at is practice number. Many people ask, do I need a practice number in order to have a private practice? Well, in order for you or your clients to claim from medical aids, you will need to be registered with the Board of Healthcare Funders, or also known as the BHF, through the Practice Code Numbering System, also known as PCNS. Now, even if you plan to be a cash-based practice where your clients pay you in cash and if they want to claim from their medical aids and get reimbursed, there needs to be a practice number attached to the invoice. So even if you don't plan to claim from medical aids, it is advisable that you have a practice number so that you don't disadvantage your clients. In order to register, you need to download the relevant form from the website, the PCNS website, which I have linked to down in the description box below. You'll then download the relevant forms and follow the instructions therein. Now that you know what you want to name your practice, you know what type of business registration you want, you've opened up a bank account, and you've registered with the medical aids to get your practice number. The next thing you need to know is how will you protect yourself? And this is where getting medical malpractice insurance is really important. It is in your best interest to have malpractice insurance in place before you take on any clients. And if you will be seeing clients at your practice rooms, it is also advisable to have public liability insurance in the event that somebody gets injured or hurt on your property. There are a number of companies that specialize in medical insurance, but you can also find out if your professional association has partnerships with any providers that might provide preferential rates. Next, you want to decide, well, your patients, you've got your bank account, you've got clients coming in the door, what are you going to actually charge them? This is where you need to decide what your rates are going to be. As I mentioned before, you can choose to be a cash practice, meaning the client pays cash upfront and claims from their medical aid themselves to be reimbursed, or you can choose to claim from your client's medical aid on their behalf. You also need to decide if you will be charging medical aid rates, and if you are charging medical aid rates, are you charging whatever rate the medical aid that your client is on, or will you be choosing a specific medical aid rate and charging all clients that same rate, irrespective of what their medical aid rate is? You could also opt not to charge medical aid rates and set your own private rates based on what you need in order to cover all your expenses and still be profitable in your private practice. You will find a video linked in the description box below that explains how you can decide what your rates should be to ensure that your practice is profitable. Once you understand what your rates are, you now need to know how you are going to actually bill your clients. In order to invoice your client, you'll need to know which codes or which billing codes to use. And this will vary from profession to profession. And this information is usually available from your professional association. You'll also find a list of billing codes on the medical schemes rates list for your specific profession. So for example, if you register with the medical aids and you go to the Discovery website, you should be able to download the Discovery rates for your specific profession, and attached to that will be all the billing codes that you need to use. But when in doubt, always contact your professional association, who should have the updated billing codes available for you. Next thing you need to decide, location. As they like to say in the property game, location, location, location. Finding a practice location will depend on your budget and runway when starting out, and whether you will be offering telehealth or not. When you are just starting out and don't yet have an established client base, you might want to consider initially renting sessional space and only settle on a full-time lease when you have consistent income coming in. If you are offering telehealth, you will also need to research platforms that are covered by your malpractice insurance and are POPI compliant. Aside from the technology, you will also need to decide where you will offer telehealth sessions from in order to ensure confidentiality in your sessions. Opening a practice from your home is also an option, but there are important considerations you need to be aware of, which I will cover in another video. You also need to decide on your availability so that when clients inquire, you are able to book them accordingly and plan in time to work on your practice as well and not just work in your practice. Now, in the Private Practice Growth Academy, I provide worksheets and video lessons that helps my members work out what their maximum capacity is, and based on that, plus the dates that they've decided on, what they can expect their maximum practice revenue will be. If you'd like to know more about the Private Practice Growth Academy, be sure to check out my website linked down below. Next thing you need to look at phone numbers and email. It's advisable to keep your personal number and your practice number separate. This doesn't mean you have to invest in a fancy brand new smartphone. If you have a dual SIM phone, you can easily put a new SIM card in that phone. If you don't have a dual SIM phone and plan to use this number for calls and text messages only, you could even get yourself a basic feature cell phone, which is not a smartphone, so you won't have access to WhatsApp. And the advantage of this is that you can leave this phone at your practice rooms or turn it off outside practice hours in order to set boundaries. I also have a handy video. It's one of the first videos I ever put on this channel, in fact, that shows you how you can install a WhatsApp for Business on your personal phone, even if the practice SIM is in another phone. Next thing we want to look at, email. Ideally, you want to have a domain email to look more professional, but it's absolutely not essential in order to get started. If you have a Gmail address, that is totally fine. However, do not use your personal email address to communicate with clients. And also, it's advisable to keep client communication separate from general practice email. You could use a free email service like Gmail, which will suffice to get you started. But then create separate accounts, for example, my practice accounts at gmail.com versus my hello at or Tasneem at gmail.com or whatever the case may be. So try to keep your accounts email and your client related email or your general email for when you sign up for different service and that separate to your client communication email. Next thing you want to look at, legal documents. Now, the two most important forms every practice must have when onboarding a new client is number one, informed financial consent, and number two, informed clinical consent. If you offer telehealth services, then you must also have informed consent relating to telehealth specifically. It's totally fine to have one informed consent that has a telehealth clause attached to it so that everyone signs the same consent form, even if they are not going to be having telehealth sessions. You cannot treat a client without these signed by the patient or patient guardian. The other forms that you need to have are important too, but they're not legally required to have them in place before seeing a patient. I do have another video that talks about all the different types of documentation, consent forms, with an interview by LCB Klink, which is also available on this channel and will also be linked to in the description box below. It's also advisable to at minimum have an intake form ready before your client walks through the door. This is in order for you to collect the relevant information you need for billing, but also just information that you do need in order to optimize the client experience that you give your clients. You can create these forms yourself by looking at the forms from other practices and simply tailoring it to your own practice, or you can purchase legally constructed templates from LCB Klink and Associates, which I've linked to in the description box below. Now that you have all of these elements in place, from your vision, your business plan, your licensing, you've named your practice, you know what type of registration you want to have, you've opened up a bank account, you've registered for a private practice number, you've got your malpractice insurance in place. You know what you're going to charge your clients. You know how you're going to bill them and what billing codes to use. You've decided on a location and times and when you're going to see patients. You have also got a dedicated practice phone number, email address, and you've got all your legal documents in place. You can go ahead and see your patients. But there are some things that are nice to have from the start, even though they are not essential, and you can actually start seeing your patients before this. The first thing to consider is to join your professional association or other special interest groups. Your professional association is there to represent your interests and is a great source of support and connection to your profession. The professional associations often represent you when there are issues regarding billing and payments and often have engagements with the medical aids. They also fight for the recognition of the various professions in terms of minimum standards of care. So contributing to your professional association can be really valuable. Joining special interest groups related to the field that you are interested in or practicing in or the niche that you've decided to operate within can also be really valuable for and also improving your clinical skills. The next thing you want to look at is deciding on practice management software or deciding if you'd like to make the use of the services of a medical billing administrator. A billing administrator is a third-party service that you outsource your billing, medical aid claims, and follow-up to. And sometimes they also provide basic bookkeeping functions too. This is a great alternative to employing a practice manager and can save you tons of time and admin compared to doing it yourself. Of course, when you are just starting out and don't have many clients, then doing it yourself means you save on the administrative fees. However, as your client load increases and you spend more time in client contact, you may want to consider the additional help. Of course, an alternative to outsourcing this function is to invest in good practice management software. This will enable you to continue fulfilling this function yourself, only more efficiently. This is also an option you can consider once you are in the position to employ a practice manager in-house, as this person would then use the practice management software in the practice. You will have to weigh up the options and make the decision that is best for you and your practice and your pocket. Next thing you want to look at is consider getting a card payments processor. Even if you are planning to claim from medical aids on your client's behalf, there may be clients who opt to pay out of pocket, who maybe ran out of medical savings or do not have medical aid. In these instances, it is best for your practice cash flow if you can accept payments immediately after the treatment session. Not having a card payment facilities can turn potential clients away to avoid the inconvenience of having to draw cash before coming for the appointment. However, this is by no means essential when you are just starting out. Modern day banking means it's quick and easy for clients to make payments via EFT, so you do always have the option to invoice the client and wait for them to settle the account electronically. You will need to weigh up the cost of having and processing payments with a payment device versus the cost impact on your practice cash flow if clients are tardy on making payments electronically. The next thing you want to consider is getting an accountant. Now, if you use a medical billing administrator, you could find someone who also provides basic bookkeeping. The level of service you require also depends on your business structure and complexity. As a sole proprietor, you could easily do your own accounting or outsource the tax functions once per year to an accountant or tax practitioner. However, if you register as a partnership, an association, or a private company, it's important that you comply with all the CIPC financial requirements, and tax can get complicated. As your practice grows, you may want to consider outsourcing your accountant to a credible accountant who has experience with healthcare practices and is therefore knowledgeable about the requirements that are unique to us compared to other businesses. Next thing you want to consider is creating a Google My Business page. Now, most people turn to Google first when looking for a healthcare provider. Google My Business is free and helps you get found by people looking for your services. You can find a video tutorial showing you how to set up a Google My Business page for your practice linked below as well. You also want to start networking and reaching out to potential referrers. Doctors, complementary healthcare service providers, and even community and nonprofit organizations who serve your ideal clients are all potential sources of referral. Make sure to reach out and make your services known and ask them to consider referring to you. If the idea of networking freaks you out and it's not your strong suit, I do have a handy video on the channel all about how to network effectively as a health professional. So do go check that out as well. You also want to consider registering a domain. Even if you are not ready for a website, you can still register a domain for a small annual fee. You can also upgrade your domain package to include email hosting, which will enable you to have a domain email without having a website. And of course, once you are ready to have a website, you can then upgrade your hosting to enable it to store and the files needed to build a website, which brings me to the next point, which is having a website. Now, having a website adds to your credibility and enables you to show up professionally online. You are also able to add contact and booking functionality to your site to make it easy for your prospective clients to book an appointment with you. However, it is better to have no website at all than to have a poorly designed website that is not kept up to date and maintained. There are many website builders you can use to easily create your own beautiful website, but only go this route if you are willing to take the time to learn how to do this. If you are planning to pay someone to build your website, rather save up and pay for a professional and experienced service provider with a good portfolio of work and experience in building medical websites, rather than choosing someone based purely on price just because you think you have to have a website. It's perfectly possible to grow a flourishing practice without having a website. And how? By starting to build an online presence on social media. We live in an age where you can have an online presence without having a website because we live in the age of social media. It is important to establish yourself online to market your practice and to build your personal professional brand. However, I do want to caution you about trying to be on every social media platform under the sun. You are going to burn out and it's not going to be sustainable. First, identify who your ideal client is, figure out where they typically hang out online, and focus on just one or two of those platforms. Trying to be everywhere will only leave you feeling overwhelmed, and you will end up not being consistent in your social media marketing efforts. It's also important to be cognizant of the ethical rules set out by the HPCSA regarding the use of social media. This can be found in booklet 16 on the HPCSA website. Finally, you want to get support and/or mentorship. Starting a private practice and becoming self-employed can be a lonely journey. It is important that you surround yourself with others who are on a similar journey to you. The Private Practice Growth Club free Facebook group is a great place to network, share ideas, and get support from other health professionals in private practice. It's also advisable to get clinical mentoring or support. This can be a one-on-one mentor or via your private practice professional representative group or special interest groups. Of course, there are many more steps involved in starting and growing a private practice, but these are the bare minimum requirements to get you off to a good start. If this all sounds too overwhelming and you don't know how you are going to get all this done, just do one thing and go from there. I've created a handy checklist you can use to guide you through the process, which is free to download via the link in the description box below. Or if you need more support and guidance, you can also join the Private Practice Growth Academy. You will find all the details about the academy and what you get for being part of it, the CPD points, the amount of lessons you get, the live coaching, all of it in the link in the description box below. Or you can go to privatepracticegrowthclub.co.za/enroll. Now, if you found this video valuable, please consider sharing it with friends and colleagues you know who are looking to start their own practice. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notification of new videos.